Do you ever feel like people just don't really get you? Like you're talking, but somehow nobody understands what you're actually trying to say? Maybe sometimes you don't even understand what you're trying to say. You lose your train of thought, your thoughts feel all over the place, and halfway through a sentence you're thinking, where was I even going with this? But have you ever considered that maybe that's complete bullshit? Maybe you've only been feeling this way because you grew up around people or spent years in a relationship with someone who wanted you to believe that nobody understands you. So let's talk about that. Why do you think nobody understands you? I woke up this morning thinking, damn, why is this still here? Why won't this go away? I've been thinking about this for months now. Just a little bit about me, so this makes more sense. I've been in contact with my family and my ex-partner for about a year now because I eventually realized I had been dealing with covert narcissists. And once you've had some distance from people like that, your mind slowly starts to clear. You suddenly realize that a lot of the things you believed about yourself were never really yours to begin with. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to make a few episodes about the biggest relations I've had over the past year, and this is one of them, because one day I suddenly thought, wait a second, this doesn't even make any sense. Maybe I'm not talking complete nonsense after all. I'm probably going to catch myself thinking that a few more times during this episode. But that's okay. That's exactly why I'm doing this. Sometimes you just have to push yourself a little, right? Okay, so here's what I figured out. If you grew up in a narcissistic family, then you probably know exactly how people like that communicate. And that's also why it took me such a long time to connect the dots, because I was basically conditioned to avoid conflict at all costs. I almost never addressed problems. I almost never talked things through. There were a few exceptions, but not many. But let me tell you something, covert narcissists are incredibly subtle. Their punishments are incredibly subtle, and that's exactly why it can take us years to understand the connection between what they did to us and the beliefs and behaviors we carry around today. We think that's just who I am, but it isn't. You've just been dealing with crazy people. You're okay. So, what do covert narcissists actually do that makes you believe nobody understands you? Well, chances are you rarely got any validation. I realize that's probably my mother's favorite punishment. She'd just give me nothing, no validation, no reaction, nothing. It doesn't even matter what you're talking about. Maybe you're excited about something, maybe you're sad, maybe you're sharing something that really matters to you. You get nothing, just silence. And you keep talking and talking. Maybe you don't even notice it anymore because you've been used to it for so long. You're talking and nothing comes back. So what does your brain learn from that? Probably something like, I guess I need to explain myself even more. And that's exactly what happens. You see it in conflicts too. You explain, then you explain some more. Then you start defending yourself, then you explain again. And somehow you never get to the point you were trying to make in the first place. Those are already two incredible subtle punishments that most people don't even notice. Sometimes not until they take a step back and cut those people out of their lives. And then one day you realize healthy people don't do that. They actually respond. They say something, but narcissists, they just sit there looking at you like you're from another planet, and you keep talking, thinking, come on, say something, but nothing at all. God, it's awful, it's awful. So those are the first two things. Number one, you never got validation for what you're saying. And number two, whenever you try to resolve a conflict, suddenly 1,000 new topics appeared. Nothing ever got resolved. You kept explaining yourself more and more, and by the end of it, you somehow became the problem, while the actual issue you brought up never got resolved. And do you see what that does to you? Eventually your brain starts generalizing. You think, nobody understands me, nobody gets what I'm trying to say. And that's just bullshit. So let's go back to childhood, because that's usually where all of this starts. Unfortunately, I barely remember my childhood. I'm sure there's a reason for that. So most of what I talk about comes from what I've noticed and observed over the last 10 years and from my own awakening process. From the very first moment I thought, wait, something wrong here? All the way to, holy shit, she's a narcissist. That took me 5 years. But anyway, think about a really simple situation from childhood. Imagine walking up to your mom or dad with a drawing you just finished and saying, Mom, Dad, look what I made. Or maybe you show them a good grade from school. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's something you were proud of. And direction? That's it. And the point is, it doesn't happen just once. That's not what this is about. It happens hundreds, maybe thousands of times while you're growing up. And for most of us, it doesn't stop there. I'm 42 years old and I only walked away about a year ago. My head is completely messed up. I didn't even realize how much until I surrounded myself with people who simply communicate in a healthy, normal way. There aren't many of them, but after a few months you suddenly realize how distorted your reality actually was and how much you have to untangle inside your own head. It's awful. So it already starts in childhood. Maybe you do get praised once in a while, but right after that it's, well, someone else probably did it better, or you got a B but she got an A. Constant comparisons. So your brain learns, I have to do even better. At the same time, you start believing something must be wrong with me. Nobody is really happy for me. Those are incredible subtle punishments, but they do a tremendous amount of damage. Nobody celebrates your success. Maybe they interrupt you, or, and this one's a good one, they just walk away in the middle of the conversation. My mother used to do that, sometimes even in front of customers. I remember standing there feeling so embarrassed that I just took over the conversation myself. I mean, who just walks away while someone's talking? What kind of message does that send? It basically says, I couldn't care less about what you're saying. What the hell? Maybe you also learned from a very young age that your words simply don't matter, especially if you were the family scapegoat, like I was. Then it almost doesn't matter what you say. Nobody cares. Sure, every now and then people might listen, but whenever the whole family is together, your opinion carries no weight. You can say whatever you want, you're simply ignored. So those are the connections I wanted to share with you in this first episode. We're already at 9 minutes now, and honestly I feel like it was kind all over the place, but I'm going to keep doing this anyway because I want to get better at speaking English, and I also want to prove to myself that maybe what I'm saying actually does make sense after all. I recorded this episode in German first, without a script. For the English version I actually wrote one, and honestly I was surprised. You really do imagine that you're making less sense than you actually are, because listening back it wasn't nearly as random as I thought. You'll probably notice something similar after you've been in no contact for a while. Your mind slowly starts becoming clearer. The brain fog gradually fades. I've read that it can take up to 2 years, which honestly surprised me. So please be patient with yourself. Okay, let's quickly recap. Today you learned about some of the subtle punishments narcissists use. No validation, conflicts never get resolved. They simply walk away from conversations, they ignore you, and your words carry no weight. And you have to understand something. If that's all you've ever known, or even if you only ended up in a narcissistic relationship as an adult and were treated like this for months or years, you adapt. You start believing something must be wrong with me. The other person just doesn't understand me, and eventually your brain starts generalizing. You think nobody understands me. Nothing I say makes any sense, but that's not true. Trust me, okay? And maybe one last thing before we wrap up. If you're struggling to get started or finding it hard to work up the courage to try something new, to step outside your comfort zone, I'd like to share something that has helped me over the last few months, even though I'm still pretty new to inner child work myself. A little side story: I've been interested in psychology and personal development for many years. A few years ago, I read a book called The Child in You by Stefanie Stahl. I highly recommend it. She's a German author. I told my mother about it back then, and this is another example of manipulation that only works because it's been happening since childhood. She just said, "I don't know. What exactly are you expecting to find?" And that was enough. I never looked into inner child work again. Just because she said that. She wasn't loud, she wasn't aggressive. She simply said, "I don't know. Are you sure that's something you want to do?" Classic covert narcissism, but that's exactly how it works. Because the part of you that learned nobody understands me, or I can't do this, or nobody gets what I'm trying to say, or everyone else is smarter than me, better looking than me, whatever lies you were taught, first of all, they are not true. And second, the part that's scared usually isn't your adult self. Your adult self can understand things logically, but the part you really want to reach is that little child inside you. That's a part that's afraid. That's a part that still believes everything the narcissist ever told you. Whenever that part takes over, whenever I freeze, whenever it stops me from doing what I wanted to do or from finishing something, whenever I catch myself believing those lies they planted in my head, I do something very simple. I imagine that a child is sitting or walking right beside me. I take their hand and I tell them, "I'm here now." I picture them in my mind and keep repeating, "I'm here now. Nobody gets to hurt you anymore. And if they try, I protect you. You're safe now. I'll take care of you." You can also add a little mindfulness. Feel your feet on the ground. Focus on your breathing. Breathe in for 4 seconds, then breathe out through your mouth for as long as you comfortably can. Sorry. Bring yourself back to the present whenever your mind tells you that you can do it. Come back to the here and now whenever fear takes over. You're safe now. You're an adult now. You can protect yourself. You can stand up for yourself. Be the adult you needed back then. Be the parent you never had. Take your own hand. I know this might sound a little silly to some people. I thought so too, but it really can help. Alright, just one last reminder before I go. You're okay. You are understood. Healthy people understand you. Narcissists don't want to understand you. They have no interest in understanding you. Their only goal is to protect their own self-image, their mask. And because of that, they do things that can make perfectly healthy people feel like they're losing their minds. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to hear the next episodes, I'd love for you to subscribe. And honestly, I'm so grateful that you're here. It makes me incredibly happy. Just 4 months ago, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was going through a complete identity crisis, and somehow that crisis turned into this project. I'm genuinely happy that you're here, and I hope we can help each other heal, find a way out of all of this, and one day build a life we truly deserve. Okay, bye.